even like talk with our kids. I mean, Scripture is really clear about what money can do to us. It is the root of all evil. Jesus said it is harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is to get through the ivy. And he doesn't mean rich people don't get into heaven. He's saying that when you have so much excess, it is a lot easier to forget about the least of these. It is a lot easier to give into everything that you desire. And that is a reality that we have all experienced in our life and we have to fight for. One thing we've always tried to do as well is let our kids pick where they give their money instead of forcing them to give it to the church, which we donate to the church and other places as well. But really wanted to give them a little ownership over that. Of saying like, hey, here are some needs. Where would you like to do that? When I was growing up, my parents at one point, I should ask my mom about this, would give me large amounts of money during the month, but I had to cover everything for me. I believe this started in like maybe late elementary even. Wow. Oh yeah. So my mom was trying to teach me budget. And so she would give me like $80, which is a lot when you're in 5th grade, right?
Yes.
And then she would say, you need to save some, tithe some, and then the rest, if you need new clothes, if you need whatever, this is where it comes from. So she was really trying to teach me to manage money.
Wow.
Now, I was a terrible money manager. In fact, Aaron and I joke all the time that I showed up to our wedding day with me and a bunch of credit card bills that then became his. He's like, wow, I didn't get to enjoy any of this. So I didn't really learn how to manage my money very well until I was a lot older. And kind of had to. The stakes were a little bit higher. But when we had kids, I knew I didn't want to do exactly what my mom had done. Nothing, no shame against them, but just whatever. So we had these little jars, okay? And they were like old pickle jars or whatever. And each kid had, I think it was 3 jars, save, give, spend.
Okay.
And so they would get whatever kind of money they would get. And then they were the goal, 10% in save, 10% in give, and then the rest in spend. Now, I'll tell you where this stopped working. When our kid got a $10 bill, do you know how hard it was for me to kind of divvy that up?
Oh, yeah.
Who has cash? Who goes to the bank? So we would try to do that, and we still tried to do that forever. But I think that with the kids, the hardest thing for me about money was consistency, which isn't that the truth for adults?
Yeah.
I mean, it is. The hardest thing for me was consistency. So we tried to do that with our kids, and now we still try to do that with our kids, and it's a little bit different. They all have checking accounts. But I will say, I will admit our failures here, is I am 44. I have a 19-year-old as our oldest, married for almost 23 years. And I feel like, embarrassingly, Aaron and I just in the last year or two have really started to get a handle on our own money.
Yeah.
And of course, there's no regrets, but we look back and just think, gosh, what if? And I think talking and teaching our kids about money is so important. But I'll also say the struggle for me is I've known it's important, but it often doesn't feel important. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Because you're like, here's what I need you to do is I need you to learn compassion. I need you to not hit your brother. I need you to not act a fool. Right. I need you to show respect to people who are in charge of you. And I need you to take care of your money.
Right. But the more dire things are what you have to do to deal with that are much more pressing than.
Yes.
Have you learned how to budget your $5?
Right. Exactly. So how have you and Scotty at the Whittle house taken care of this when your kids were little?
You know, you're telling about this jar system. I'm thinking that sounds pretty like high tech to me.
Well, it was also, I have 4 children. Do the math. That's a lot of jars hanging around the house.
Yeah,
with pennies and quarters in them.
That's pretty good. No, I mean, I was pretty impressed by your jar system, actually. I was thinking we should have done a jar system. I mean, but isn't that the truth, though, the way that we look at the way other parents do it?
We're like, oh, we should have done that.
Like, that's so brilliant. I was even thinking about what your mom did. I was like, oh, that's so brilliant. And then you're like, I was a terrible money manager.
I know.
But I do think that is the whole thing of it. And the other thing that struck me as you were talking was the lack of confidence we have in our own ability to manage money as parents.
Yeah.
Isn't really that the crux of it? Maybe we really aren't good at it. That's one thing. We don't prioritize it. All of those things. I'm with you. I don't know that Scotty and I have been the greatest at being money managers ourselves. So I don't know that we thought through like, oh, let's teach our kids to budget. I will say, because my parents, my mother in particular, was very adamant about tithing from the very beginning. You know, we were good Baptists, so you're going to put that tithe in the bucket.
Yes, you are.
You know. So we had the little envelope growing up. We had the little $2 or whatever. So, you know, our kids, we wanted them to know from the beginning, like, this is what the tithe is about, and this is really important. So we did prioritize that with whatever like little birthday money they got or whatever the case may be. But I mean, partially this is maybe my brain not remembering, but I don't remember us having like a system. We really didn't. They, you know, they did chores. I never really wanted to give them money for chores because I wanted them to feel like, no, you have to clean your room. I'm not paying you for that.
Right.
Sorry,
you live here.
You live here. Like this is your part of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your payment, the money is like you get to live here for free, right?
Yep.
So we didn't have that system. I will say this though, when Scotty and I decided that we were going to get serious about money, of course we decided we're going to go with the Dave Ramsey system.
Of course.
Yes, you have to. So we decided we're going to do that. And we decided that we were going to get our kids involved because we thought they need to learn about money too. So I don't know why we didn't think maybe we should learn first, but we thought let's all for one for all, right? We're all going to pile up in the car. We're going to do the day. So it's a Sunday night deal at a church. We're going to go. We went to the basement of the church. We're going to do the videos and all the things. I don't remember the exact ages of our kids, Jamie, but I want to say the oldest was maybe, you know, I don't know. He was maybe a junior in high school. So then follow suit. The rest were freshmen in high school and on down. So 7th grade. And we went and did this class. Now, it was what, a 7-week class? I don't know, 8-week class. We have videos of the kids.
You took them for 7 weeks?
We took them. We missed, I think, 3 of the weeks. Let's be honest.
It wasn't like a one-night deal.
No, they had to go with us every Sunday night. And okay, so I just have to give full disclosure here so that some parents will be encouraged. Begrudgingly, the kids went.
Of course.
We drugged their carcasses to go,
Yeah.
right? They were not happy about it. And, you know, we have videos of them. They are looking like they could kill us. But we thought maybe one little tiny thing that's said here will stick with these kids, like one little thing. And I remember sitting around and people giving testimonials as to why are you here? You know, what do you need from this? Like, why are you in the money situation you're in? Or maybe you're just wanting to do better or whatever. And I thought, you know, stories often compel people, you know, and something sticks. Here's the truth. I don't know if something stuck or not. I know our expert is Rachel and Cruz, and she will be on here. And so she'll help us maneuver and navigate this whole thing with her wisdom. And we're grateful for that. Yeah. But I think the important thing for me in all of this was realizing that, once again, as parents, we set the example and we made plenty of mistakes. Oh, goodness, as parents. Money was certainly one of them. I think that one thing we did do right by the time they got to college was to say, we want you to have some skin in the game. And so we didn't say you just get a free ride for college. We wanted them to know, like, some of this college is going to be on you. If you choose to go to this school or that school or whatever. And having skin in the game was really important. So
we've done the same thing with our kids as they go into college. We're a little bit behind you. But one thing also that we've wanted to do is really make our kids have jobs. And, you know, the problem as you get older is typically, not always, as you get older, you're more secure in your money. When Aaron and I first got married, I mean, we made like literally between both of our W-2, like $14,000 between the two of us. And I think we had full-time jobs, you know. So you age, you get older, you get much more secure. And so thank goodness as you're parenting teenagers, because they cost $1.5 million each. But we've told our kids, that when you turn 16, you will get a job. And granted, some of them also do sports. And so it looks different for how often they can work and what they can do. But for us, we needed them to know that everything is not just going to come easy for you. You need to learn how to have a boss. You need to be accountable to someone else. And, you know, people laugh at me all the time because we make our kids pay for 2 things, which is so funny when I tell you what they are. They pay for their own gas.
Okay.
And so you got to pay for your own gas. We'll provide the car. We'll do the insurance. You pay for your own gas. And then this is so weird. I don't know where it came from. I think one day I was just like, I'm done giving you money for this. They have to pay for their own haircuts. And so
that is funny.
Isn't that funny? I have no idea why. And now that the boys are older and they do work more, oftentimes they're not asking me for money all the time because they have money and they'll go do stuff and it's great. But we really wanted to teach them, like, we're not just dishing out money. And honestly, we don't dish out money all the time.
Yeah.
We're like, you have jobs. This is what you do.
Yep.
This is what you're doing. And so we really wanted to prepare them for that by making them have jobs and be accountable for their money. Now, I told you that we started a new budget. And we have done the envelope system before as a family. And so there that is. We started a new budget, and you have to tell me what you think about this.
Okay.
Only 3 of my kids were home, so my oldest wasn't home, so he didn't have to sit through this. Funny thing about the Iveys is sometimes we have family meetings, and Aaron and I come to the table with PowerPoints, okay?
I'm sure that is such joy for the kids.
The kids are so excited. They're like, are you kidding me? We're like, look at the TV, guys. We have something to tell you. So it's not unusual for us to come to the table with PowerPoints. So we come to the table, and we wanted to let our kids know that we were about to get a lot more stricter with our money because we felt like it affected them as well,
Sure.
And so we all live here. We all eat the same food. We all go on the same vacations, all the things. And so when we created our new budget, we let them in on it. And so first, me, I was like, guys, this is family stuff, not a secret, but please don't go running and telling all your friends how much money your parents make.
Right.
But we showed them everything, Lisa. And the reason we did it, Aaron and I went back and forth about it, but we really wanted them to see, like, you guys, it costs a lot of money to own a home.
Yes.
It costs a lot of money for us to pay for 3 people's insurance that are teenage boys. It costs a lot to feed a family of 6. And so for me, even though I was hesitant about it, I wanted them to understand what it costs to have, whatever you want to say, a family of 6 in 2023. And I don't know, it's too early to tell if it was helpful or not.
Yeah.
But I have heard my kids, like, they'll say something and it's a joke now. They're like, nope, we're on a budget. Can't do that. We're on a budget. But to me, I think it's showing them we just don't get everything we want right when we want it.
Yeah. I think that's actually super smart. I really do.
I'll send you our PowerPoint. You can add in your own numbers.
Would you please do that? Yeah, because I don't want to have to recreate that. No, I actually really think that's smart, Jamie, because, and we did something similar with our kids, not to that degree, but let them in on the nuances of what our financials were in the context that they could handle it. Clearly,
Right.
like, you don't tell
For
them
sure.
everything.
Yeah.
But put some numbers to it.
Yeah.
Because it is important for kids to understand there is budgeting involved, there are prices involved, there are price tags, and you have to pick and choose, which I think is the biggest lesson. I'm not the expert here for sure, but it is the helping them decipher, because again, we're launching kids out into the world to be able to know how to manage their money.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And so we're helping them make decisions while they're under our roof. That's one of the reasons why I love what you talked about with having them pay for their own gas, because what that actually does is help them make good decisions about where to go.
Thank you. Do you want to go back and forth from school 4 times today?
Right.
Why?
Right.
Yeah.
So they're getting a lot pickier now about where they're going to go. When mom and dad are just paying endless gas tabs, they're just like, oh, we'll go here, we'll go there, we'll go way out of the way. Sure. Hey, dude, I'll take you home and your sister's mother's best friend.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you get into.
Yeah.
So we can do that.
Yeah.
But then they don't make very good decisions with their money.
Yeah.
When they are paying their own gas, they start to get a lot pickier.
Yeah.
And I watched that happen with my kids too, and we have the same philosophy. Like, they turn 16, they get a job.
Yep.
And we actually had another stipulation, which is a little bit of a side road, but we said you have to work for food service, because we want you to know
that's a good thing.
what it's like to have to serve people and them not be happy that their cheeseburger wasn't done right. Like, this is what you have to do. So all 3 worked food service the minute they turned 16. And but the thing about the making their own money was, all of a sudden, where they were very casual about, like, their clothes being thrown around or this or that or the other, they're having to start buy stuff. They're having to start buy stuff themselves. Yeah. I'm butchering that statement. Yeah. But you know what I mean. They are now being very particular 100%. About how they're suddenly folding their clothes. Yep. They're suddenly, like, keeping their rooms well, and I'm keeping up with my AirPods now because I've bought them.
Right.
And I think that's it right there, right? Because otherwise, how else are you going to learn to keep track of your stuff. So we are doing them a great disservice by providing everything for them. Listen, people complain all the time about this Gen Z being entitled, right? But who has given them a lot of those sort of ways to become entitled? We have to look at ourselves in the way that we've just, bought them things. And so I think managing money is a part of that process.
Totally a part.
Yeah.
And I know, I keep talking about Aaron and I's budget because it's so fresh in the last 6 months. And we have said to each other so many times, we feel so empowered by this. In fact, I think I texted Rachel and said, I feel so empowered by this. And that's what we want to teach our kids as well, is that they can have control over their money. And you and I and everyone listening has lived through seasons of plenty and scarcity. That's called life, And so teaching someone to value the dollar. And then the next point that I think that I don't know that we have done the best job of, that I want to do a better job of, is to really empower our kids to know that really everything we have is a gift from the Lord. And I'm not saying we haven't taught them that, but it's also hard. I mean, I'll just be honest. It's been really hard with my kids having jobs to allow them to see the importance of giving money away, giving money back. I mean, we've had to have some really hard conversations, and I don't have the right or wrong way of do we demand that our kids do this, or we do give them opportunity and present it to them? I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
Every kid's different. You mentioned the very first episode, you knew what some kids were going to struggle with from the very beginning. And we have a kid that struggles with money. And so it's hard. It is really, really hard. But really wanting to talk more about conversation, especially because the kids are making money, they have jobs, and they're going to college, where we also ask them to put skin in the game, of really just saying hey, what does it look like to really believe that this money actually did come from the Lord?
Yeah.
And what does it look like to be givers with our money?
Yeah.
Because sometimes kids, it's a hard concept.
Very.
Because even if they love me, it's hard for adults. Who are we kidding?
Seriously.
You get to the point where you're this is my money. I worked hard for this. I don't want to give it away. And so I think that's really hard. And Aaron and I are just trying to we're trying to model it, and we're trying to have conversations about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I think, one of the things I've noticed about myself, even with money and, giving it back to the Lord and tithing and all those kind of things, I've noticed that if I don't respond immediately, it just gets harder and harder and harder. So I think there is sort of that, that training, that teaching, that and it's constant. I don't think it's a one and done. I think it's a modeling of saying this is a gift from God. It's all God's at the end of the day, and we immediately turn back and say, here, let me offer it back to you.
Yeah.
And so to me, honestly, Jamie, throughout my entire parenting, especially things that have been harder concepts that could be very dogmatic, right? Give your money back to God, give your money to the church. My thought has always been, I need my kids to understand the why behind this. Right. There are some times that why I just need to be the parent and just say, you just do it. Yeah. But there are times, and I think money is one of them.
Especially if you want it to last forever.
Yes. Yeah. That they have got to understand the heart. Because if they don't understand the heart, then it won't, then maybe they could even do it until they graduate. Right. And then they won't care. But it just won't stick. Yeah. And so I think this is one of those things where you say, this is a heart of worship. This is a heart of gratitude. And also, the blessing of it, we don't give back because we want to be blessed. Right. This is a give back, type of a situation. But it is one of those things where, I have personally watched God bless me when I've been committed to giving back. Yeah. And I think when you even share nuggets of those things with your kids, I was sharing with my kids not long ago a story about my own mother who she's a faith warrior. So many of our kids, their grandparents are just heritages of faith for them in many cases. And so I was sharing a story about how my mom was in a moment in her life when she really had no money. My father had died. She was just living off of Social Security and really had no money. And she had made a pledge to give money to the church for something. And my mom has always taken that very seriously. And so she needed $300 to, for that pledge to be fulfilled for that month, but she didn't have enough money to even pay like her own rent. And so she prayed that morning before she was going to go to church. And she said, God, if you will give me the $300, even though you know what my needs are, I will fulfill to the church what I need to. And I'm going to count on you to help me with everything else. Yeah. And she said she went out to her car and she was pulling out to go to church, and there was a little box on the front of her car. She said, I almost missed it. And she opened up the lid of the box, and there was $300 in cash on her hood of her car. And she said, and you know Mimi.
I know Mimi.
You know that she is true to the bone.
Yeah.
And she said, I went to church and I put that $300 on the plate.
Yeah.
And then God provided for me that month to be able to pay my rent. And, I share that story with my kids because I want them to know the heart. Yeah. I want them to know the why. Because money is one of those things that we can hoard, that we can feel like desperate, like we don't have enough. Yeah. And in my moments in my life, Jamie, I felt that way. But I needed them to see like a picture of someone who did it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it blessed them.
And to even like talk with our kids. I mean, Scripture is really clear about what money can do to us. It is the root of all evil. Jesus said it is harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is to get through the ivy. And he doesn't mean rich people don't get into heaven. He's saying that when you have so much excess, it is a lot easier to forget about the least of these. It is a lot easier to give into everything that you desire. And that is a reality that we have all experienced in our life and we have to fight for. One thing we've always tried to do as well is let our kids pick where they give their money instead of forcing them to give it to the church, That's which good. We donate to the church and other places as well. But really wanted to give them a little ownership over that of saying like, hey, here are some needs. Where would you like to do that? Okay, so our expert, I cannot wait for her because I do have a question. We've never done this. I have a question for her.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
We've never done this. When our kids were also after we did the jars, okay, then we moved on to those credit cards that we put money in.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you load the cards.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. It's not worth it. And it was great, except our kids would lose them or we'd have to transfer money.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it is it had the area where you could do the save, give, It wasn't a real credit card, obviously. Right. My question for Rachel is that okay? Is that teaching our kids to handle their money well? Or is it teaching them to swipe, 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 swipe? I don't know.
Here we go.
I'll see what Rachel has to say. We asked our friend Rachel Cruz to join us as the expert for this episode, and you'll see why. She is a certified financial coach. She's a speaker and a #1 New York Times bestselling author, and she's also a podcast host. She speaks and shares practical guidance on how to get out of debt and helps people take control of their money. She hosts the Rachel Cruz Show on YouTube, and she co-hosts Smart Money, Happy Hour podcast, and often co-hosts The Ramsey Show with her dad, Dave Ramsey. She's written a ton of books that are going to help you manage your money better and a lot to help us as we help our kids manage this money. So we wanted Rachel to share her expertise, not only because she's a financial coach, but you know what? She really wants to help parents help their kids manage money. Here's our friend Rachel Cruz.
Hey guys, my name's Rachel Cruz, and there are a few things that stood out to me about Jamie and Lisa's conversation. Oh, it was so good, first and foremost. Everything they were saying, I was like, yes, amen. Okay, Jamie, I'll answer your question since you ended it with that question. So I think what you were talking about was kind of this like prepaid debit card, and different companies now have this, that you can preload money and then your child, your teenager has this card and they can use it. So that is not a bad thing by any means. I think that it can be a really great tool. But I think for me, whenever it comes to money, as much as I can put real world experience with my kid, that's going to be ideal. So the prepaid debit card idea, again, is great. But if I could get them a student checking account where they actually then had to be able to log in on a bank, and this could be like a brick and mortar bank or even an online bank, but to say, okay, I have to have my login information, I have to go and look at it, and I have a debit card and I have to keep track of things, like that just brings a little bit more of the real world reality to it. So again, prepaid debit card idea, not a bad idea, but as much real world integration you can do with your kids, I think the better. And again, student checking will be under you as the parent. So it's a great question though, and one that we're getting a lot now, which is exciting because it means that parents are actually realizing, okay, we need to talk to our kids and teach our kids about the subject, because money, it is a hard subject. And you guys mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but it's just true that a lot of our mistakes as parents and the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, the regret that comes with our money mistakes can influence why we don't talk to our kids about money. And so parents out there, I just want to free you from that. So whether you have millions of dollars in your 401k or whether you're living paycheck to paycheck, like regardless of where you are financially, let me just encourage you and maybe even challenge you a little bit that you are the one that is responsible to teach your kids about money. I mean, it's not the church's responsibility. It's not the school's responsibility. It really is you as a parent, and you're never going to be perfect in the subject, like any subject in parenting and in life. And so stepping into that, though, and even talking about some of the mistakes and the regrets, I think is a really helpful tool for your kids. And again, very age appropriate. But man, bringing that stuff in, that is real world life. And I think for me, growing up, as Dave Ramsey's kid and in the Ramsey household, a lot of people have this misconception that we were obsessed with money. And like all we did was talk about money. And we had like mutual fund birthday parties and went to budget camps every summer and all that, where that was not the case. Thank you, Jesus. But mom and dad just brought a lot of their real world experiences to their parenting when it came to money, because they actually filed bankruptcy the year I was born. So I was born in April and they filed in September. So talk about a money mistake. I mean, truly at the bottom of that is when I was born. And they really use those opportunities to be like, hey, here's what money looks like in real life. And it's hard sometimes. It's not always easy. But bringing us in on those conversations and those real life examples, I think was so huge. So Jamie, you said, I think it was you that said something earlier about the 3 jars, and that when your kids, either earn money or get money, that you have these 3 jars. And I love that. That's what we did growing up, and what I'm kind of starting to do with my kids at home. I have a 7, 5, and 3-year-old. So we're a little bit on the early stages of this. But yeah, the give, save, and spend mentality is beautiful, because you want your kids to be able to do all 3. And you think about money as an adult, that's really the 3 things we do with money. I mean, you can give it, you can save it, you can spend it. And so teaching them that is like this really simple form of budgeting, even of just being intentional with their money. And in order to get the money, I think it's a great idea, especially if you have little ones in the house, to have them do chores and work. And Lisa, I so appreciated what you said when you're like, no, they should clean their room because they're part of the family. And I agree too. So I do think that there are chores that you do because you're part of the family, and that's life. We do things every day and don't get paid for them, but you have to be an adult in society today. So there is part of that balance for sure. But also, if there's a couple of things you can do where they can earn extra money, I just think it's helpful, because they start to grasp and understand from an early age that money comes from work. Money doesn't just come from mom and dad's back pocket or on my birthday every year, right? So you really kind of start implementing, hey, here are a few things that you can do and we will pay you for them, and pay them instantly. The younger they are, I would say the more visual that you can be with money. So actually having the money and paying them and showing them this connection between work and money is really helpful. And I just find too in my own life, and what I find is so helpful too, is that, man, they give their money differently when they earn it. They save it differently. They spend it differently. And so there's just something about that ownership piece that I think is really a beautiful gift to give your kids early on. So again, it's that balance when it comes to chores, but I think both are really, really important. And you guys touched on even the giving aspect, which I really loved, because you were like, I don't want to, do we force them to give? I want them to know the why behind giving. And I think all of that is such an important conversation. But I would say, the younger they are, they're not going to have the emotional or spiritual maturity to probably deeply understand generosity. But when it can become a habit and it's just part of what they know that they do with money, I think that's really important. And I think there's something to be said about making it part of your rhythm, because as adults, when you fast forward, a lot of people tell me, man, Rachel, I would give if I had more money. If I just had more money, I would be generous. And what I find is that money is a magnifying glass. I mean, it makes you more of what you already are. Meaning if you start these great money habits like giving, saving, and spending wisely with not a lot of money, the more money you get, and if you start to build any type of wealth, those good money habits are going to be magnified. So I just think about that with my kids, that, I make them brush their teeth. I make them do their homework and do spelling words for spelling tests the next day. And part of that is for them to win in life. And I just think giving is that. So again, I hate that it sounds legalistic, because it might, but when they're younger, I really would force them to give something. And then as they get older, yes, talking about the importance of why. And understanding, especially the spiritual aspect, that God owns it all, that we are stewards. We are managers of what he's given us, and living life with an open hand does more, yes, to society and the person you're giving to, but it does change your heart. I mean, when you give, you are saying no to yourself. You are denying yourself in that. And there's something about moving on that spectrum of being selfish, where life is just pointed at me and I'm looking at me all the time, to selfless. And that is a heart change that happens. And money is a great practical way for that change to happen. So I love the idea of giving. And again, as your kids get older, yes, explaining the why is so important. And having them save up for something. So whether it's haircuts and gas like you, Jamie, which I love, or maybe it's saving up for half of their car that they're going to pay for. That's what my parents did. We had to pay for half of our cars when we turned 16. So whatever it is, like learning that delayed gratification, that you're putting money away for the future, and it's going to sit there. And it's going to sit there until you have to buy the thing. And there's something about that detachment that's really key in winning with money long term. So I love the delayed gratification. And then the spending. Let them spend and enjoy. And guess what? Make mistakes. They're going to mess up. I bounced 3 checks when I was a teenager out of that student checking account that we had as Ramsey's. And I bounced 3 checks at Hollister. So everyone just prepare your hearts. And that is the truth. And I remember, feeling like, no, but I didn't get in trouble. My parents did not yell at me, but I did have to go down to the bank and apologize to the branch manager for lying to him, because I, quote unquote, said I had money in his bank to spend and I didn't. And that was a lie. So that did happen. But I learned that mistake, at 15 years old rather than at 25 or 30. So parents, let your kids mess up. Let them mess up, because they're going to make really inexpensive mistakes under the safety of your roof versus the first time they ever handle money and they make a mistake, but that's going to be a much more expensive mistake when they're past 18 and out on their own. So again, those tactical principles I think are really great for kids and teenagers to earn money, whether it's in the house or outside the home, and working and learning to give, save, and spend. All 3 of those things is really key. And then, besides the tactical side too, I would encourage you parents out there to talk about the emotional side of money. I mean, money it can be a very dangerous tool. It can be a really beautiful tool that's used to help people and to change your family's legacy. There's some really great things that money can do, but it also can be very harmful. And so the position of where money holds in your own life as a parent, your kids are going to pick up on. And if it's like the end all be all and you're just doing everything to get more and get more and get more and get more, they're going to see that. And if you just consume and consume and consume and consume, they're going to see that. And so there really is this important aspect of you as a parent that more is caught than taught. So they are watching your relationship with money as well. So that side, and even contentment, that's more of an emotional side of money, but talking to your kids that, it's okay to have nice stuff, but we can't let our nice stuff have us. And it can have us and going into debt for it. The borrower is slave to the lender, in the sense that stuff, that thing owns you and owns your paycheck. You don't own it when you borrow money. And also it can own you if your identity or your joy, you think your happiness is wrapped up in that thing. And we've all done this, like just said, if I could just have that pair of jeans, I'd be happy. If I could just go on that vacation, my life would be better. You just have these things out there. And the truth is, at the end of the day, you come back home from the vacation, you get done wearing the pair of jeans for the 4th time, and it's still you. Like, you're still there. You're still part of the equation. And so understanding your heart and working on who you are as a person is really big, because remember, again, money is a magnifying glass. It's going to make you more of what you already are. So thanks again, Lisa and Jamie. Number one, I'm so appreciative that you asked me to join you on this podcast. I love this subject, and I think it's really important. And I just want to give hope to you parents out there. Again, regardless of where you are financially, you're doing a really great job. And the beautiful thing is that we all have the ability to wake up tomorrow and make different decisions and different choices with our money. So if you don't like where you are financially right now, if it feels hopeless, if it feels stressful, if you hate it, the great thing is that you can do something different. You can try something else. You can try a new way and see if it works. And scripture is just full of so much wisdom when it comes to money. And so I would encourage you to dive into that and any great resources to help you as a parent, because when you really do get control of your money versus your money controlling you, I think it frees up a mental space for you and a capacity then to be able to walk in with your kids and say, hey, I want to bring you into this conversation as well. So all of it works together, and it's all, again, not just to, become like really rich and buy a bunch of stuff, but it really is to use money as a tool to help your family and help others. So being extremely generous is a big part of that equation too. So, thanks again, you guys, for letting me join, and I hope that this helps.